My mom, a soul tethered to the earth, lived for her garden. But that was only until she laid her eyes on what, or rather who, lurked in the woods. Our greenhouse, a translucent skin over a beating heart of green, was my after-school ritual, a place where sun-drenched silence usually reigned. Then came the day that she stumbled in, a strangled sound in her throat, muttering to my dad about seeing Mrs. Horwood in the woods behind the greenhouse. The woods. Not just the trees, but miles upon miles of suffocating green stretching into an unseen abyss. Only rusted husks of old cars, long-dead memories of a forgotten highway lay swallowed by the ravenous wilderness. A barely there path, a faint scar on the earth, snaked through the shadows to the Horwoods' tiny house, a comforting landmark between our properties. They were just my substitute grandparents, those two. Their home a haven of soda and cookies. But this was different. Mom finally whispered the full chilling tale. She was watering, lost in the rhythmic flow, when a faint sound scraped the stillness behind the greenhouse. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, echoing on the small, unseen path. Our greenhouse being plastic, a semi-transparent shroud distorted the outside world into a hazy, dreamlike blur. Shapes were discernible. Trees, vague outlines, but nothing clear, nothing defined. She looked up, and through the cloudy film, a form coalesced. Mrs. Horwood, she thought, standing there, just staring in. Mom, obviously startled, tried to force a lightness into her voice. "Jesus Christ, Mrs. Horwood, you scared me. How are you?" Silence. A thick, unnatural void. Mom said it instantly freaked her out. Miss Horwood, a vibrant, outgoing soul, a fellow gardener, would never be so utterly still, so terribly unresponsive. She would have been bustling, chirping, sharing her joy in the soil. Mom just stared back, her eyes narrowed, desperate to pierce the blurred veil to find a familiar expression, to confirm that it was truly her. And then the sickening, gut-twisting realization. It wasn't Miss Horwood. The face, indistinct through the plastic, held a grotesque, almost angry contortion. That's what instantly confused her. An icy tendril of dread coiled around Mom's heart. She forced her hands to move to appear normal. Slowly, deliberately, she set down the watering can. Then, every nerve screaming, she walked to the front of the greenhouse. She exited, stepping into our backyard, onto the deck, and into the house. She didn't look back. Only when she was safely inside did she dare to take a glance. The woman was gone. That's when she burst into the house, her voice tight with a raw, primal fear I had never witnessed. Dad, a man of quiet logic, went outside. He walked out behind the greenhouse, followed the faint path to the Horwoods' door. Minutes later, he returned, his face a mask of pale bewilderment. Mrs. Horwood and Derek were inside, watching TV. They hadn't been near the greenhouse. That day, a shared silent chill settled over my parents. Mom still says the woman's face is burned into her mind, a distorted, angry mask that haunts her. Every time I think of it, a cold dread washes over me, leaving goosebumps crawling on my skin. And sometimes, when the wind howls just right through those woods, I swear I can still feel her eyes, burning through the plastic, looking for me. Turns out, such memories are the most difficult to erase. just like what happened with this next person. Never before had a shadow crossed my path, never a whisper of unease, until that day. Everything changed. The biting air still clings to my memory. It has left behind a phantom chill that seeps into my bones even now. It was only a few months ago, somewhere between the dead heart of December and the bleak promise of January. I'm just 17, barely 5'4", a student trapped in the twilight zone of a part-time job at a children's play area. A place that usually hums with the manufactured joy of laughter and the bright chaos of birthday parties. That Sunday, the usual cheer had dissolved into a suffocating exhaustion. We had closed down extra late. My every muscle screamed for the sanctuary of home, a desperate plea for rest. But home was a town away, and my job a city's sprawl. Taxis were a cruel joke for a student's wallet, and on Sundays, the buses simply vanished, swallowed by the early night. So I walked. A desperate, weary march after a day spent navigating the relentless energy of small, shrieking humans. My mind, a vacant lot, zoned out, focused solely on the phantom comfort of my friend's couch, where I was crashing for the night. Then came the true horror. A slow, insidious creep that began with the simple act of navigating. My phone, a dying ember at 20% battery, was my only guide through the labyrinthine streets. An hour and 10 minutes, the map promised, a cruel eternity on a winter's night. It was way past 8 p.m. The world plunged into an inky blackness that seemed to swallow sound whole. The route, a twisted ribbon of alleys and desolate, silent stretches, felt less like a path and more like a descent into something nameless. I was halfway there, maybe, and the cold, God, the cold. My coat, a forgotten comfort at work, meant every breath was a frozen dagger in my lungs. My eyes, heavy with fatigue, were glued to that flickering screen. Just straight, the map insisted, then a sharp left. Almost there, finally. But that is when it hit me. A tremor of wrongness, an icy tendril of unease that snaked up my spine. My gaze ripped from the dying glow of my phone, drawn across the desolate street. He was there. A man, mid-20s maybe, average height, maybe 5'9", a blurry silhouette against the deeper black of the night. He was walking towards me, then stopped. A sudden, unnatural stillness at a bus stop. I tried to dismiss it, to tell myself it was just the usual nighttime paranoia, the anxious flutter of a young woman alone in the dark. I tried to brush it off. I walked past him, each step a leaden weight. As I passed, I felt it. The unmistakable weight of his stare, a silent predatory gaze that seemed to pierce through the darkness and into my very soul. The moment I cleared the bus stop, the world tilted. A gut-wrenching spasm, a primal scream in my stomach. Run! And I did. The corner was my salvation, and the moment I rounded it, I booked it. My legs, screaming in protest, became pistons. I ran until my lungs burned, raw and tearing, until the very air felt like shards of glass. 3 minutes, an eternity, then a desperate, gasping turn. He was there, speed walking. The man from the bus stop, now a distant yet terrifyingly real shadow, was gaining on me. My breath hitched, a ragged, tortured gasp. My stomach plummeted, a sickening lurch into the abyss of pure dread. But then, a surge of something else. Anger. A hot, furious anger that coiled into my gut. Anger at myself for being out here, at him for invading my space, at the universe for this cruel twist of fate. And I ran again. Faster. Driven by a raw, desperate fear that propelled me forward. Each step a desperate plea for escape. My body shook with the effort, every breath a battle, a desperate inhalation of thorns. Lights, a shimmering beacon in the distance. A main road, shops, the blessed promise of other human beings. I stumbled, gasping, forcing myself to a momentary halt. My gaze, wide and wild, shot back. He was still there, a chilling silhouette about 150 meters behind me. And then I saw it. The peculiar, almost theatrical way he flung his arms up, turning, walking back the way he came. Disappointment. That is what it looked like. A predator whose prey had slipped from his grasp. Now the memory haunts me, a cold echo in the quiet hours. The bus stop? The buses don't run late on Sundays. He knew. He was waiting. And every single time I find myself walking alone in the dark, the chilling question whispers through my mind. What if I hadn't run? These unanswered questions became the very basis of our next story. I carry a suffocating weight from 8 years ago. The weirdest thing that's ever happened to me. It all started with an argument, a bitter clash with my aunt about her drugs. She just stormed out. That night, she died. We found out in the bleak, unsettling light of morning. That whole morning was wrong. Our cat, never one for outdoor adventures, brought in a screaming black crow, a horrifying, flapping chaos. Other strange things just kept happening, an escalating prelude to the terror that would soon consume me. I fell asleep that night, and that is when the nightmares began. Not just dreams, but a terrifying, continuous reality. For a week straight, each night, the same dream picked up precisely where it had ended, an unfolding horror that I just couldn't escape. It felt more real than waking life, a warped, oppressive dimension. The first night, I was pinned in my living room, unable to move. From outside, I heard the chilling scrape of chains dragging across the concrete, punctuated by a woman's agonizing sobs. My eyes darted around, but my body was a leaden weight. I saw my own terrified reflection in the living room mirror and felt an immense, suffocating presence pressing in. The second night, the nightmare resumed. The chains, the cries, all there. But this time, I could move. My feet, heavy and slow, carried me to the door. Through the warped glass, I saw her, a woman shackled, weeping, being dragged by some unseen horror. As my hand reached for the doorknob, a desperate need to open it, I jolted awake. The third night, no reprieve. I was at the door again, the woman's desperate cries echoing. This time, her voice twisted, sickeningly familiar. I tried to scream her name, tried to call out, but my throat was useless, a choked silence. Then, mercifully, I woke up. The fourth night, the torment restarted. I could walk, see my terrified reflection, hear the chilling sounds outside, feel the suffocating presence. But the door remained a cruel barrier. I lunged for the handle, my fingers closing around it, and a searing heat shot through me. It was like fire. I woke in a cold sweat, tears streaming, staring at my hand, convinced that I had been burned. The fifth night. This is when true horror unveiled itself. I finally opened the door. The creature looked up. It was a goat. No, not a goat, a monstrous travesty standing on two legs, towering over me, clad in tattered, ripped fabric. Its eyes glowing with a sickly yellowish orange light, which were pits of pure malevolence. Its entire presence was a physical assault, a cold dread that pierced me to the core, freezing my blood, seizing my heart. I woke, drenched in sweat, sobbing. The creature's image burned into my mind. The next 2 nights blurred into a single agonizing continuation. The same terrifying scene, but now a horrifying clarity dawned. The woman, she was my aunt. Her voice ragged with terror, pleading, begging not to be dragged back to the Kensington Avenue. "I don't want to be there!" She screamed, her voice breaking. "Help me! I'm stuck!" Finally, agonizingly, I was able to step through the door. One step, just one, and the creature turned to me, unleashing an ear-piercing scream that tore through the night, freezing me in place with pure, unadulterated fear. It spoke in a guttural language I didn't understand as it dragged her back up the street into what she had always called a living hell when she was alive. Each morning, waking from those dreams, the line between nightmare and reality blurred. The tears on my face, the sweat on my body, they were undeniably real. No one could explain it. Some whispered of grief, others of a demonic presence clinging to us. I wasn't spiritual, but my grandparents certainly were. We prayed every single night until the dreams finally, mercifully stopped.